Podcast number one, man. This is Alex. This is Alex Johns. Yep, this is the Alex Johns podcast. It's my first episode. I don't know, I just want to talk about time today. Time. So, I've been taking this class. I'm in college. It's called Interpersonal Communication. I have the best professor ever for it. But he's really gotten me interested in this idea of time. We've been studying a lot of Gaston Bachelard, if you ever heard of him. He's kind of like a French philosopher who writes really confusing stuff, but is actually kind of insightful. I don't know. I'm going to do my best today to kind of rant. Yep, I'm going to rant about what I think about time. I mean, is time linear? I mean, how can time affect our future? How can time affect our past? Time is our future. Time is our past. That's kind of stupid that I said that. But basically, how can we better understand time and make it a tool for us to use in our lives rather than just let it pass, let it slip? So that's kind of what I want to talk about today. It's going to be a short podcast, but recently I watched the movie Arrival. Great movie. I think it was from 2016. It has Amy Adams in it. It's got the guy from Avengers who played Hawkeye. I'm not gonna look up his name right now. But oh my gosh, this movie is so crazy. If you haven't seen it, don't listen to this. I'm gonna spoil some stuff, but basically it's all about how these aliens are coming to Earth and they're coming with a tool for humanity. Humanity doesn't know this though. It's all centered around these 6 or 7 little pods that come down and are just sitting there. And then you've got humans going up inside them trying to figure out how to communicate with the aliens and trying to figure out what they're doing here. Amy Adams is kind of like the main character. She's a language professor, so she gets called over by the government to go talk to these aliens. And eventually what she learns is eventually what she kind of finds out is that they're trying to give her the language of time. And this is an interesting concept for me because the way that these aliens are seeing time is that it's not linear. It can be traveled through. It can be experienced in many forms. And it can be felt. So it's absolutely nuts to think about this for me. Because, what if you knew all the events of your life that were going to happen, like, in the future. This is kind of what the movie ends on. Like, if you could know exactly how your life was going to pan out before it happened, like, would you actually change anything? Or would you go with the motions, keep it the same? And that's something that's really interesting to talk about, especially whenever you look at this movie through kind of what Gaston Bachelard talks about. I don't want to confuse you guys too much. It's going to be a rant, but I want to talk about memory a little bit because a lot of times, we think of memories as just enjoyable moments of our past. Memories are typically either good. Memories are typically either really good or really bad. So, you're not going to remember something like super insignificant, like what you ate for breakfast on December 2nd in 2013. Like, you don't remember insignificant stuff like that. What you remember is stuff that impacts you, whether it be traumatic events like a death in the family, whether it be super exciting things like getting a puppy when you're a kid, stuff like that. So memories are always stuff that have an impact on us. We don't remember insignificant things, and there's a reason for that. It's because our memories are important tools that we use, whether we're conscious of it or not. We use memories in our everyday life to learn how to act in a certain situation on our day. Like, we'll reflect on our memories to help us in what we're doing in the present. Whenever you're thinking of a memory, it's for a reason. It's typically for a reason of maybe you're doing something and you think back to a time when you were doing something similar. Or maybe you're talking with someone and you're trying to remember what you've said in the past so that you don't maybe compromise what you're saying right now in the present. So this is an interesting concept of memory because I think memories, and Gaston Bachelard, I think, would agree with this. I think that memories are actually occurring in the present. So memories happen in the past, but you can bring them to the present and make them presently available. Like, you can experience your memories in the present. So basically that kind of means like your memories are happening in the present, because you're going to think about something. You're going to think about, oh, well, last time my car broke down like this, I did something. What did I do? What did I do that made my car work again? And then when you're in that situation the next time, you're going to be actively thinking back to that situation and letting that memory, letting that situation influence your present state, what you're doing right now. You're going to act on your car based on how you acted in the past because it worked. So that past memory you're using is actually happening in the present because you're using it, you're interacting with it, and it's helping you complete something. So you could argue basically that memories aren't even in the past, they're in the present. They're in the present. It's kind of crazy. I hope you guys don't think I'm a crackpot, but I'm seriously learning this shit in college. So let's talk about time and what it takes to really take advantage of time. And I'm no expert on this. I'm just regurgitating information that I think is really interesting. But let's think about the instant. It's something called the instant that Bachelard identifies. He talks about basically the instant is the moment right now, the moment that you need to recognize in order to have a good outcome in your future. So the instant is basically like, instant could be any time in your future present. You have to realize the instant. Instants are hard to realize. The instant is usually a time where you have to make a split decision, even if you don't realize it. The important thing is trying to realize it. The split decision that is going to affect your future in a major way. And, you know, it could be something as easy as talking to a classmate after school, or deciding whether or not to uh, save that rolling shopping cart that's rolling down the parking lot and about to hit someone's car. Like, you never know what kind of effects those events could set off in the future depending on their outcomes. It's a crazy thing to think about. So if you're able to realize the instant in certain parts of your life, there's times, and they're happening all the time. We have to have an awareness. There's times whenever there's a situation in your life where you're going to make a split second decision. You need to realize that instant and try to extend it. Try to extend that instant so that it seems longer, and you can kind of like more understand what you're looking to do with this portion of time. It's hard to do. I'm just trying to really focus on the instant in my life right now because obviously I've just really learned about it. But the instant is something, it's almost like if everyone were able to understand this, it'd almost be like the key to success in life, because there's always going to be those moments in your life where you're at a point where whatever you do, something major is going to happen that impacts your life. Whether it's talking to the girl in line when you're getting coffee, you never know. That could be your future. You have to decide in the instant whether or not you're going to act on something, because you might have an inkling that it's going to affect your future life. Realizing the instant is something crazy. So I don't know if I'm even doing it justice right now, but I hope you guys are kind of following me and enjoying this little rant about time, because it's crazy. And you know, hindsight is always 20/20. So you talk about the instant and you talk about, well, how do I know if it's the best decision to make in the instant? You really don't. You really don't. It's just you have to kind of know what path you're on in your life, what kind of future you're looking for, because as soon as you make that decision, hindsight is 20/20. You can look back at that decision and say, "Dang, I should have made this other decision." That becomes a memory maybe. If it's something huge in your life, that maybe becomes a memory that you use in the future. But if you think about the instant and you're not sure what to decide, it's easy. I mean, most people probably are in that situation all the time. Like, you're in the instance, like, oh my gosh, should I go to the bar with my friends tonight, or should I stay in and write this essay? It's like those actions are gonna have consequences. You have to realize that, And whether or not they truly do affect your future that instant, there's going to be another instant in your life where a decision you make is going to be of monumental impact. It's just nuts. So looking back, hindsight, it's a crazy thing because memory is almost like hindsight. Hindsight is just, looking back on an event being like, dang, well, I wish that kind of turned out differently, or what if this happened if I would have done this. When you realize the instant, you can almost comprehend exactly those questions of hindsight in the moment. That's the goal. That's the goal of the instant, and it can affect your life's duration, like duration over time. Oh my gosh, it's a lot of crazy stuff. But that movie Arrival, if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It will make you think, because think about this: the aliens brought to Amy Adams what was the language of time, how to communicate time, how to communicate past events perfectly and let others understand, how to communicate future events, and how to alter future events in your present. Like, oh my gosh, imagine if there was a language of time and us humans could communicate it. Nuts. Nuts. So something else that's really interesting. So you guys ever have those moments of like deja vu? This is the last thing I'm going to talk about. Deja vu. Sometimes for me personally, it'll be usually come in the form of like a dream or something, or I think it does, where you'll dream some random situation. You probably won't even remember the dream in the moment, but you get to a certain instant in your life, and all of a sudden you realize, say you're talking with 3 of your friends, and all of a sudden you realize, I've been in this exact scenario before. You're in the same location, the same, you're all sitting in the same spots that you remember. Have you guys ever had an instant where, you just think, you're like, I've seen this exact moment before? That is where maybe a language of time would come in handy. Think about if you could extend that moment of deja vu before the moment actually happens in the present, because essentially, I don't know if everyone experiences, but essentially what that is seeing a piece of your future. Imagine if instead of just that glimpse of, oh my gosh, I've seen this instant before, imagine if you could say, oh my gosh, I've seen this minute before. I know what actions I can take in this minute and their consequences. I've seen this minute before. It becomes a memory. What if you could have a future event become memory? Whoa. So deja vu, I know you guys have probably experienced it, but it's an interesting concept because that is ultimately bringing future, past, and present all together intertwined, because you're in the present, you realize that you've seen this event before, but it was in the past. But in the past, that event that you saw must have been some form of the future. So just by you thinking, oh my gosh, just by you thinking that that event is happening in the past, it's in the future. Oh my gosh, I'm popping off. I don't know if any of this makes sense what I'm saying. But just remember, this is Alex Johns, not Alex Jones. I'll see you on the next podcast.